to The Fourfold Disciple, a podcast from Emmett Ministries devoted to turning disciples into disciplers through theology, apologetics, and cultural engagement. Welcome back to another episode of The Fourfold Disciple. Election Day 2024 is officially upon us here in the U.S. As people are out at their polls or they've already gone due to early voting. This is a pretty historic day. It's a moment where the next president of the United States will be elected, and I think that it's one of the most contentious presidencies and presidential elections that we've seen maybe in American history. That's not to say there's not been contention and lots of fighting amongst presidential candidates before, but it just seems to be expressed more abundantly this year during this election run than in previous years. And some of that is just the culture that we live in. Some of that's the media. Some of that's even our own desires to have our opinion be put forward as the all-affirming truth. Now, today, I think it's important for us to not be distracted by the fact that it's election day, to not be distracted from the most important things. And I think the best way for us to do that is for us to rightly frame these things in their biblical context. It's so significant that we walk through every moment of life with a biblical worldview. Whether it's elections or our jobs or a loved one gets sick, whatever it may be, it's significant that we would be thinking about those things from a biblical worldview. Because when we fail to think biblically, what ends up happening is we become so consumed, we become so shaped by these things that when things don't go our way or they don't go the way we want them to or we think they should, everything crumbles. Whether it's from the fact that maybe you've put too much stake in getting married to this person and all of a sudden that person doesn't want to marry you anymore. Or maybe all you've done your whole life is work towards this job, and then all of a sudden all the opportunities to get there, all those doors are closed. Or maybe you've set this expectation that you're going to do this thing and you have a major injury and it prevents you from being able to do that. Whatever it is, in life we have to understand that a hope that we have can't be in things that are of this world. I think about the Tom Brady video so often after he's won one of his Super Bowls. And Tom Brady's at the peak of sports achievement. He's won the highest level game. He is the world champion when it comes to football. And there's no doubt about the success that he has in that moment. He's interviewed by 60 Minutes, and they ask him, what are you thinking in that moment? And he answers the question in such a unique way. And I think it gets at what we're even talking about here today. He says, I just couldn't help but ask, what's next? Is this it? And I woke up the next day and I started preparing for the next ring. I think that we get a peek into the reality of the world whenever we hear a quote like that. Because what we're shown is that our hope cannot be in anything that is of this world. It cannot be in anything that is going to fade away. It cannot be in anything that will pass. And so as we have Election Day 2024 here in America, I think it's significant that we understand that our hope it must not be in a president, in a governor, in a lieutenant governor, in a vice president. Our hope cannot be in tax policy. It can't be in foreign affair policy. It can't be in the idea of whether or not we're for or against tariffs. Our hope as Christians must be beyond everything that we would think the world would want to have their hope in. Our hope is not like the world's hope. Our hope is so much greater than the world's hope. And I think that we need to live that out. I think that this election cycle, as it's coming to an end and as we go into whoever is president and their presidency and whoever's governor and their governorship, whatever that is and whoever that is, I think that it's important that we understand as Christians that our responsibilities remain the same. That you're called to share the gospel with the lost no matter who is president. that you're called to love your neighbor as yourself, no matter who is president, that you're called to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, no matter who is president. Yes, I think it's amazing that we get this opportunity to participate in these democratic elections, that we can vote and we have that right to do that, and that's an incredible thing. But at the end of the day, my responsibility as a Christian cannot and must not be dictated by who is in the Oval Office, which means that my hope, that my foundation must be in something that is beyond this world. I love the C.S. Lewis quote that kind of goes like this: if I find within myself a desire that cannot be quenched by the things of the world, then I must have been made for another world. I think the thing that's fascinating for us about politics is that no matter who is president, let's say your candidate of choice becomes president, they're going to do things you disagree with. They're going to do things that you're not happy about, and they're going to let you down. And at the end of the day, at the end of 4 years or 8 years of a presidential candidate's terms, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be left unsatisfied. And if you look at the world, if you look at how the media, if you look at people on social media, if you look at how the non-Christian is interacting with politics right now, you would think that everything for them and all their needs and their wants and the deepest longings of their souls are going to be satisfied by who is president. That's significant for us. We have to call that out. We have to call that out in our own hearts. Yes, there's benefits to a certain individual who is president. There's benefits to certain individuals who are in leadership that benefit Christians. That's not a lie. You should understand there's the complexities of the government that we live in, and that there are some individuals who would really want to promote things that are against God's ways, and we should be against that. But at the end of the day, if the president or the candidate of your choice is not president, it's going to be okay. We still serve a God who is sovereign. Whoever is going to be president on November 6th is our president-elect on November 6th. That's not a surprise to a holy God who is in control of everything in the world. We have to remember that. Because if we don't remember that, what ends up happening is that we look like the world, and all our hope is put in this individual or this party or this ideology, and we end up so dissatisfied. We have an opportunity when it comes to big moments like this in life to show that our satisfaction is not in the world, because when it is in the world, it fails. And we have an opportunity to share the gospel with others. Aren't you so dissatisfied with men and women in leadership who fail? You know, in the Bible, we see lots of godly men and women who are in leadership, and they fail. Throughout the history of God's people, we've seen people who are in charge, and they fail. But you know, there's one who has come, who is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And the reason he is those things is because he has never failed. He has always succeeded. He was perfect in every act that he conducted. Every thought he had was unstained by sin. He was holy. We have to remember that. Jesus is our King. And so I don't know if you voted, I don't know who you voted for, but my hope is that you would hear this today and you would walk into the election results that come out tonight and maybe over the weeks or whatever it is, and you would rest in the fact that the deepest longings of your soul will never be satisfied by who is in the Oval Office, but can only be satisfied by resting in Jesus. You know, we have a hope that's not like this world. There are individuals that are placing ballots, you know, for early voting and on election day, who are placing ballots, and their hope is that their individual candidate wins and that their policy gets put forward and that their life will be impacted and better for it. And there's, in some sense, that's why all of us vote, right? We vote in accordance to what we think will lead to a more successful, more fruitful life for not just us, but as the collective self. And we want that. And that's a good thing. It's a part of the privilege that we have when it comes to getting to vote. It's not a bad thing to want to do that and to want to participate in that. But when that becomes everything, it ultimately becomes nothing, because eventually something will not go the way you want it to. You'll disagree with how something is done, or someone will say something that you don't like. And what's so significant is that we have to then look to the one thing that actually is a foundational hope for us. If your hope is in policy, if your hope is in who's in the Oval Office or foreign affairs or whatever it may be, if your hope is in the things of this age, you will find yourself on shaky ground, on ground that is not safe to be on, and you'll end up in a place of despair. But if you build your house, if you build your hope on the word of the living God, if you build your hope on Christ, you have a hope that won't be shaken. You have a foundation that is everlasting. You can rest in this reality that Jesus Christ has come and he has died so that sinners could be saved. And he was raised from the grave so that they would be righteous, giving them the peace of God. And not just the peace of God, but peace with God. And that peace leads to an overflow of the Christian life, where one rejoices not just in joyful times and good times, but rejoices in suffering, because suffering produces character, and character is a product of endurance. And this reality that the Christian life is brought to fruition as we walk through sometimes really hard things and rest in Jesus, with a hope that's not like the world's, with a hope that is far beyond anything this world could even imagine. And so I hope as you go into Election Day today that instead of putting your hope in who will be in the Oval Office, instead of putting your hope in even the system that we have set in place, would you put your hope in Jesus? Would you put your hope in the one true political leader that will never fail you, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords? And would you rest in knowing he's coming back? He will return for his bride. And so if you're listening to this and you're not a Christian, Jesus Christ is coming back to judge the world. He's come once to offer salvation, and that's free to you. By faith in him, you can be saved. And he's coming back. And when he comes back, it won't matter who's in the Oval Office. It won't matter what policies are put forward. It won't matter what type of foreign affair policy has been promoted or what type of tax policy there is. What will matter is whether or not you have rested in Jesus Christ for your righteousness. At the end of the day, the deepest longings of our souls won't be satisfied by who is president. And so as you go out and vote today, or as you reflect on your vote and as you look at election results that come in, would you rest in knowing that the reason you are voting is a gift, but it's just a part of the whole meta-narrative of the scriptures, and that your biblical theology that has God creating the world and God reigning over the world and God offering salvation to the world and God bringing in justice to the world at the return of Christ, that influences everything. And that your hope is not in things that will fade away, but it is in the Word of God, which will remain forever. So, as you walk into Election Day, don't have trepidation, don't have fear, but have confidence no matter who is president. For we serve a God who is sovereign. We serve a God who is reigning. And our hope is not in the individual or a group or party that is in leading our political system, but our hope is in Jesus Christ, who has come, who has died, who is raised, who has ascended into heaven, and who will come again to judge the living and the dead. And so keep that in mind as you walk through this day and the days ahead. When the world is going mad, when it seems like all hope is lost, would you be a beacon of light reminding them that there is a hope that is far beyond any political party? Thanks for listening. Please like, share, and follow. and let us know what you want to hear about on the Fourfold Disciple as you go from disciple to discipler. For more resources on discipleship and to connect with us, visit emmettministry.org.